Ladies and gentlemen, we're live, and you're tuned in to another episode of the Joey Nuggs Show. I'm not even giving these names of these episodes any more numbers because we're getting into the tens of hundreds. Not really, but we can dream big, can't we? But this is the Joey Nuggs Show, and we're going to get started out with the intro and with the music, and then I'll bring in my guest. That's how we'll do it, just like
I'll never slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness.
And we're back in the studios, ladies and gentlemen. It's the one, the only Joey Nuggs. You're tuning in to another episode of the Joey Nuggs Show. And on this episode, I am proud to present from the world of professional wrestling, from the gorgeous ladies of wrestling. You remember them, Glow, that hit record, that big television show back in the 80s? I've got April Hom, a.k.a. the Royal Hawaiian, in the studio with me today, ladies and gentlemen. And I am so honored and privileged to have her. Aloha to you. It is awesome, and I am beside myself and honored to have you with me today for our interview today. And
Thanks for having me, Joey. Nice to meet you.
It's a pleasure. All the pleasure is mine, ma'am. And I say ma'am not to say nothing to do with your age, just out of be a respect for a lady. So that's just how I was raised. Yeah, so we're starting to have a lot of great, gorgeous ladies of wrestling. You're the third wonderful lady so far I've had on the show. I started out with Sunny, and then we went to Gremlina, and now I got Royal Hawaiian. And I am so honored to have you on the show today.
It's exciting to see the girls out. So we love doing podcasts and interviews. So thank you for having us, and I'm sure you'll get the rest of the girls to come on. It's exciting to see them.
It is my honor. It is my honor. So something brief to let you know about Miss Royal Hawaiian. Now, make sure that I'm getting this right. Were you one of the originals from the first season?
I was. I actually was at the very first audition in Hollywood. So it was at the Hyatt Hotel on Sunset Boulevard, and there were 1,000 girls. So everything you could think of, from actresses, dancers, models, cheerleaders, gymnasts, ice skaters, athletes, whatever you could think of was there. All walks of life, shapes, sizes, colors, everything. We had no idea what we were there for. And myself and Hollywood were the two that were cast for the original 12 girls. Both of us were at that first original audition. It was an open call.
Wow. So you were on the first audition, open call.
Yeah.
And how did you find out about the open call?
Well, actually, I was in Hollywood pursuing an acting career. So I was working in Hollywood, right between Hollywood Boulevard and Sunset Boulevard on El Centro. And I was working for a secretarial service, and my boss's name was Marianne, who I'm grateful for till this day. She was very flexible and would let me go on auditions or interviews and leave the job, go on an interview, come back, make up the time, don't get paid, whatever I wanted to do, she let me do. It was awesome. And my agent was right across the hall from us. I worked for a secretarial service. So we did, back in the day, we didn't have cell phones. We didn't have all the technologies that we have today. So I used to work on what was called a telex machine. It's kind of like back in the day when they said we would send a telegram across the country. It was the same thing. So businesses would call in, they would dictate a message to us. We would type it on this machine and we would send it across the country or in another country or whatever. So I did all kind of secretary stuff. Across the hall was my agent, who was Bob Yanis, and he was partners with Jeff Bridges, who was Todd Bridges' dad. Todd Bridges from Different Strokes, you know.
Wow.
Yeah. You know, which talk about Willis, you know, with Gary Coleman. So that was his dad. So that was the talent agency right across the hall from me. So they got the call and they said, hey, he came across the hallway and they said, hey, there's this open call for some TV pilot, and they're looking for all kind of girls, all shapes and sizes. We have no idea what it's about. They just said, come on out. And if you had athletic background, it would be a plus. So I figured maybe it's some kind of sports show or who knows, I mean, I don't know what it was. And so my boss, Marianne, let me have the day, the time off. She said, go ahead and go. We got there and there literally was 1,000 girls. I mean, it was a big giant ballroom and in the middle of the room was a big wrestling ring. And
Wow.
so we turned in our headshots and everybody sat down, kind of like if you've seen the Netflix show, how
Yeah.
they have the ring and the bleachers and they've got maybe about 30 girls. So it was small size, right? Well, it was like that, but it was just a bigger scale. So David McLean and then the director, who was Matt Simber, David gets up and he says, well, thank you all for coming. You're all here for an all women's wrestling league. And this is for a TV pilot. Well, a third of the girls got up and left. So they're like, I'm not breaking a nail. I'm not getting hurt, see you later,
Wow.
Yeah. So it's kind of crazy. It's like they all and I'm like, well, what do I got to lose? This is why I'm working in Hollywood, is so I can be near these kinds of things, right? Drop of a hat, get up and go. So I wasn't going anywhere. I figured I'm waiting until I get cut, right? So I got nothing to lose. This is exactly what I was there for. So I stayed around and, they basically talked about what they were looking for. They were casting 12 girls. So they already had 12 characters. So everybody thought, oh, April, you came up with a great character. And I said, you know what? I didn't come up with her. She just happened to land in my lap. And they had the 12, so basically at that audition and open call, they're looking for a Royal Hawaiian, a Spanish Red, Hollywood and Vine. Matilda the Hun was, she was already a wrestler, but California Doll, Tina and Ashley, they already had an idea on what kind of girls they were looking for. So they were looking to maybe categorize, oh, that one looks like that could be this girl. This one could be that girl. And so they were kind of weeding, girls out. And then they were doing little, like interviews. They put us on camera just to kind of see what we could come up with and just kind of off the cuff, oh, tell us a little bit about you. Or, hey, if we made you the Royal Hawaiian, tell us about you, that kind of stuff. And so they kind of saw how we were in front of the camera and then they got us in the ring. And they said, well, let's see, can you do some tumbling? And I was a cheerleader. So that I had behind me as well as I was an athlete, So I grew up between two brothers and I was a tomboy. But my mom had me in dance lessons at the age of 5 and modeling and, all of the other things to keep me girly like. And I played softball, I played basketball. I actually played baseball first. And so I tell that one because in the San Gabriel Valley, which is where I lived, I was the first girl to play boys Little League baseball. So they didn't have girls sports at the time. So I played boys Little League baseball with my brothers. So I played in between them. One's 14 months older than me, one's 14 months younger than me, and I was the tomboy right in between. So my younger brother got razzed a little because my older brother, okay, he was better. But my younger brother, hey, your sister's better than you, kind of wasn't a good thing. But anyway, so I started out, with sports at an early age. I think I was probably like maybe 8 or 9. And then I went, once they did have softball, then I changed over to softball. And then in high school, I played competitive basketball and softball. We played in CIF championships and all that with, Cheryl Miller, who now is the basketball coach of my college at Cal State LA. And so I was athletic and I played softball for many, many years on a competitive travel ball team. So, I had all that. But, when this came in, to play, it was like I was doing community theater and, lots of stage shows and dance. I hula danced since I was, like in my my first dance lesson was at 5. And I danced flamenco dancing and then I went to hula. I grew up in East LA and that's where I first learned to dance. So I had all this background that was kind of getting me ready for, I don't know what, right? And then this kind of fell into place and I basically became the Royal Hawaiian. They basically had girls that maybe were kind of looking like they could be the Royal Hawaiian. And then once they, cut it down, I think there was probably I don't even know how many interviews after that. they did to come up with the 12 of us. But it was like about maybe 35, 40 of us that ended up starting to train with Mondo Guerrero in Watts.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's where it all started.
So I got to ask you this. I've heard it from other people, but they were not first season. I got to ask.
Yeah.
There's a big humor. There's a rumor going around, and it's a story that's told that some ladies were outside the ring and they weren't paying attention and taking everything serious, and Mondo put somebody to sleep. Were you there when that happened?
Yep, absolutely. So we were in Watts, and it was actually in a gym upstairs above a biker bar. And we were working out, and some girls weren't paying attention. And he basically grabbed the first girl that was next to him, and he got her, and he put her in a sleeper hold, out like a light. And all of a sudden, everybody is paying attention, right? And he's like, hey, you don't pay attention, someone's going to get hurt. I'm going to teach you something. You're going to miss it. And then when it comes time for you to do that, you're not going to know what's going to happen. He goes, yeah, she was flip-flopping like a fish on the floor, But I don't even remember who it was. It was a girl that got cut because she when we tell the story, it's none of the 12 of us that started the show. So, yeah, so he wasn't messing around. And Mondo, we did LA Comic-Con, and we had a Q&A panel at LA Comic-Con in last December, and he was there. So we always get to reminisce and go over that story again. So it's a good one, but he wasn't messing around, and some of the girls really didn't get it, I mean, so you should have been paying really close attention, right? So obviously that girl's gone, and the rest of us, I mean, I pretty much was interested because I had no knowledge of anything to do with wrestling. That was my first, experience. I wasn't into wrestling. The only thing I knew was collegiate wrestling, like high school. My buddies in high school were wrestlers. And so other than that, so I was game because I was excited to learn something new, and basically some of the girls just didn't have what it took to grasp the moves and really didn't like it. Some of them were like, you know what, this is just not for me, and they walked. And then there were some that they got cut because obviously they might have wanted to be there, but they weren't making it. So David and Matt would talk to Mondo and say, okay, who's not making it and who do we need to get rid of, So
Wow. I got to ask this. Now, you're obviously your character was Hawaiian. Now, Mountain Fiji, was she first season?
She was, but she didn't come in until the season started. So we did, for the 12 of us that were trained by Mondo and those that got cut, we started in 1985. And that was for the pilot. So we did the pilot, which ended up being the episode for season 1. Then once we sold the show and we actually got to Vegas and started looking for new wrestlers, we had to hire all the new girls for season 1. That's when Fiji came in. So Fiji was all 4 seasons, but she wasn't part of the pilot group, the 12 of us. So she came in. But yeah, from the beginning, Fiji was a glow icon.
Oh yeah.
She was my buddy, even though I was a bad girl and she was a good girl. I spent a lot of time with her at the end of her life. The last couple of years, I spent a lot of time with her. So I was lucky enough to share some good times with her. So, but there was only a few girls that did all 4 seasons. So she was one of them. And she was, of course, a fan favorite, and she loved Matt and Matt loved her. So it was a real special thing to have her. If you saw the documentary, that was the reunion we did for her when they got that going and got the documentary made. So that was a fun day and real exciting for her.
Wow. So out of all the ladies that you wrestled, is there somebody that you always wanted to wrestle one of the seasons that you didn't get a chance to wrestle that you thought you would have a great match with?
Yeah, Tina Ferrari. Yeah, Tina Ferrari. I never got to wrestle. Someone I always wanted to be a tag team with was my buddy Jungle Woman, Annette Mariquin. Annette was an awesome wrestler, and everybody always asked, how come you guys never teamed up? I said, you know what, we never got the opportunity. We always say, oh, it would have been a good tag team, but um, Tina Ferrari and who else would I have liked to wrestle? Well, I now that everything's over, and being able to see, season 3 and 4, I would have liked to wrestle Daisy. That would have been kind of a cool, because everybody for me was always either like I was always the bigger or the power, more of the lifter, right?
Mm-hmm.
I would have liked to maybe wrestle someone bigger or taller or, maybe a little bit more competitive, if you will. Like Daisy would seem like she would be a challenge because of her size, right? She was so tall. So I think she would have been kind of fun to have wrestled.
So I do my backstory just so I'm not walking into this stupid. Because
Yeah.
I'll be honest, I love pro wrestling, but I don't know every little fact and
Sure, you
little
can.
bit of. I wish I could. I'm not that
Yeah.
quick anymore. I was a little better back in my day, but I see by reading facts that you were the first bad girl to win the crown.
Yes.
So who was the champion you beat?
So for the pilot episode, so for season 1, the show had to start somewhere. So the storyline was about Tammy Jones, who had a sick little brother, Bobby. I think his name was Bobby. Anyway, she won the crown from Matilda, if you can believe that, right? Little Tammy Jones and Matilda. And so she was kind of like our Shirley Temple, kind of lollipop, lollipop.
I remember this now.
Yeah. And so my thing was, I tell people, even today, it's part of my thing because I say, I broke her lollipop, and too bad I actually have some around here, but that's part of my thing now. So I made a shirt that has my match with Tammy Jones, and it's got her and I, and it's actually right here, as a matter of fact. My room is a mess, but I do have some stuff, so I don't know if you've ever seen it. So
I remember. Were you talking about like one of the big lollipops with the multiple colors, the rainbow big pops?
I have the wrong book, but it's a big round lollipop. You know, can you get it at
the big swirl one? Yeah.
Colors? Anyway, so that was her thing. So during our match, I broke her lollipop and I stole her crown.
Yeah.
So there's a picture, and it's got Tammy Jones and I, and it's a picture from that match. And so I use it today. That's one of my most popular photos that I sell because it's me busting the lollipop, and that's my thing. So if they buy a shirt, I say, if you buy a lollipop, you get a free shirt. I mean, it's just kind of a funny thing to do. But the shirt has us, and then I hand out a lollipop. If you buy one, it's a lollipop about that big.
That big.
And then I always have candy on my table. And so I have these little tiny ones. If you don't mind me getting up,
No, do it. I love it.
Yeah, I'll show you because
this is exclusive that people would not even know about, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, the funny thing is look, I just happen to have all my stuff kind of organized, but look. So this is what I do. These are little ones.
Oh, yeah.
So see how they're lollipops? So
yeah,
so these are little tiny ones, and I just put them in a bowl on my table when I'm at an event. And then when the kids come up, I say, "Oh yeah, you can help yourself. Have one." And then I'll tell them the story, and I go, "Oh yeah, Tammy Jones, I took her lollipop, and bam!" And I just falls into pieces like that, and so I give it to, and so I bust them. I just play it up, and the kids love it. They're like, "Oh my god,
that's the best!"
Really broke the lollipop.
I love it.
So that's what I did. I said I did that, and so that's my little shtick with the Tammy Jones. But so she won it in the first episode, and then with my match with her, that's what I did. So I became the first bad girl to hold the crown.
I can remember that now.
I didn't even know, but there is a spreadsheet on the internet somewhere that they tracked it. So for a while, I never even knew. And a fan said, "Oh, did you know that you held the crown the longest?" And I'm like, "What? How do you know that?" And like, "There's a spreadsheet on the internet." I'm like, "Oh, really?" And they said until Daisy. So I think Daisy was the one who ended up keeping it for the longest into season 3 and 4. And she, of course, was the last Glow champion. So she's the reigning, champion now permanently anyway. Yeah.
So who did you lose the title to then, or who stole it from you?
You know what? It's Americana.
Americana.
And so that's the funny part with kayfabe and all the stuff that we did back in the day is it was very strict for us back in the day to where we couldn't walk around and hang out with good girls. The bad girls had to stay with the bad girls and the good girls with the good girls. And I was roommates with Americana. So that's the funny part. It's like everybody says, oh my gosh, you used to, beat her up and this and that. And I said, yeah, but we were roommates. But her and I were the trainers for season 1. Uh-huh. So we started out training all the new girls. And then Dallas was a trainer. And then after season 2, I think it was Nunichka and Debbie Debutante. And I'm not sure after I left, I'm not sure all of the girls that got involved from the training side. But I get excited because Nunichka is one of my favorites. And since I guess I could have said her too, but she was a bad girl. Yeah. So, but she did turn and she was a face. So I guess I could have wrestled her as a face, but I was her trainer. So I get really, kind of excited and proud because I trained her and she ended up being a champ, and so that's kind of a cool thing. Just Nunichka. So I would say Nunichka would be one of the other ones that I would have liked to wrestle.
She was always one of my favorite characters.
Yeah,
she was a
crowd favorite, and even when we go out and we do events, they always ask about her. And just recently, she started to come out. Took me a long time to get her to come out, but I got her to do some interviews, and then got her to do in studio interviews in Vegas on Thoughts Count Anywhere with Aaron Phillips. And then I got her to CAC, to the convention in Vegas. And then I got her to Unicon convention in Vegas. Tried to get her to LA last year for LA Comic-Con, but she ended up having another event. And she's still one of the costumers. She works for herself and does costumes the same as her and her mom did when they did the Glow, because they were our costume ladies. Her mom had yeah, I don't know if you knew that, but her mom was our costume lady, and the way she got into Glow was she was delivering a costume, and Matt Simber saw her and said, hey, would you ever consider, maybe thinking about joining our show? And she was like, well, yeah, I guess. And he said, would you bleach your hair platinum blonde? And she's like, hell, why not? And she was a performer. She's been an entertainer her whole life. She never went to school. She was on the road. She's a trained ballet dancer. She was working in Japan for many years, and she's always been an entertainer. I think she was an ice skater also. She started out as an ice skater, so she's been in the entertainment business her whole life. But she's now still doing costumes. So she works for herself, and she does all the costumes for, I want to say it's Royal Caribbean Cruise Line, one of the cruise lines. She does all their costumes for their shows.
Wow.
Very talented. You want to talk about a lady who can do anything and everything? That would be Nunichka.
Wow.
Yeah. So we got to get her on your show.
Yeah, they say that she's like totally like just like got out of the entire picture whatsoever. The last thing I seen, I think it was on the documentary, that she was in Las Vegas and she was doing, like you say, the costumes and everything. And then she told a story how she got married, and I guess her husband thought she would be the bad girl character that he watched on TV, and he was disappointed.
Yep, exactly. So you can see she's been on Mike Rand's show, and the fans had been waiting for her for years, so he had a double episode. But you could probably see a couple of hers. I worked on her for quite a while to get her to come out, because the fans were constantly saying, can't you get her to come and do an interview or come to an event? And so finally, in the last probably 3 or 4 years, she's done a few things with us.
Wow.
Yeah.
She was always one of my favorites.
Yeah,
her and Spanish Reb, you one of my favorites, of course. And I always loved.
Was my tag team partner, so that was.
I know she was. I always loved the bad girls. Hey, we have more fun. Bad girls have more fun, And it's They tried to change me to a face, but I just said no way. I said, could you see me spitting out pineapples in someone's face as a face? No, you can't do
I
that.
can't do that. I'm a goody goody, and I'm gonna be, cheating and pulling hair and doing all that stuff. I said, no way. I said, sorry, not doing it. So I refused, and they let me stay. And I was like, okay. I said, because I just can't see plain Royal Hawaiian as a face. So I stayed a face, and that was it. But yeah, real fun. And you just said something. Oh, Spanish Red. So we've been missing a few girls. And so we had Attaché, Spanish Red, Vine, and Little Fiji that were missing. There were 4 that we had no knowledge of their whereabouts. So we found, I think, everybody except Vine. So Attaché we found. She just wishes to stay private. She's, I guess, married, kids, living well, and she's okay and everything.
That's a
And
blessing.
then Fiji, Little Fiji, I believe, is somewhere in Vegas, but again, doesn't want to be found. And then unfortunately, we just heard there was a rumor that Spanish Red had passed. And then it was rumored that no, that wasn't true. But then recently we did hear again, Sunny said she had confirmation that she was, it was foul play with her boyfriend. And she was, I guess, murdered. And
Oh,
so that
jeez.
was unfortunate for that. And then the only one that we're missing still is Vine. And I had looked for her for quite some time because she was another fan favorite. And we believe she's back in Canada because I believe that's where she's from. And she just wishes not to be found also. There's some that just have chosen, to go on with their life and live happily ever after, and that's okay. And we have to respect that's the life that they chose. Afterglow, which is now part of things we do, is called Afterglow, which is something that Roxy Astor came up with. So we have some other stuff that's coming up, and we got some projects in the works, and we call it Afterglow. So we will have some things hopefully coming up soon. But we wish everybody well that doesn't want to be involved. But me, for one, everybody asks, why do I do it? I do it to keep the brand alive, and I do it primarily for the fans. I'm not getting rich selling 8x10s and t-shirts, but it's the reward that we get back when we see what the fans' excitement, their thrill of, recently I had another guy, you don't understand. This is a 40-year-old man, that you're making a 12-year-old little boy, a 10-year-old little boy's dream come true. And we did a show out in Palm Springs, and we met a few new fans that we had never seen before, and we're just sharing new stories. So we get it all the time. I just met somebody here in my hometown, or not hometown, but where I live today, and I met a girl in CVS, and the pharmacist was talking to me, and she just overheard something, and she says, "I'm sorry, what did you say you do?" And I said, I used to be a wrestler, a professional wrestler. And she goes, "You're kidding." And I said, "No." I said, "From Glow." She goes, "Oh my God." She says, "My sister is gonna die when I tell her I ran into you." And she's from West Covina, which is the city I currently live in. And she said that and she was 40. And she says, me and my sister would watch you every Saturday. And she was just beside herself. And so, of course, I give them my card and I tell them, here, follow me on social media. And she goes, when I get home, my sister's going to absolutely flip out, So you just never know who you're going to run into, who you might meet. And then the stories that we hear, that's the whole fun part of it, is being able to, I jot all these down, or when we do events, my assistant Juan will take video, because I'm in the process of writing my autobiography, and we're hoping to do another documentary. So there's some things in the works. So hopefully, we'll have some more stuff for the fans, because, with Netflix ending abruptly thanks to stupid COVID, the fans were not happy about that, and neither were we. But what can you do? We were always in hopes that maybe something would happen, and maybe they would decide to do a 2-hour movie or something and give the fans an ending, something to that effect. But who knows? You never know. Never know what's going to happen.
You never know what will happen in the future. That's for sure. Now, also, I read
Never know.
now, did I read this right? You played a second character, Sarah, from with the
I
tag
did.
team with Sarah and
I
Mabel. Is
did.
that correct?
Mhm.
Tell me about that
Correct. And it's
experience.
funny because, yeah, well, it's funny because even to this day, there are some Glow girls that didn't even know I did that. So Roxy asked her, for example, she's like, "You did what?" I said, "I was the original Sarah with Sarah Mabel and Nadine, who was Ashley of Tina and Ashley. She played Mabel." And she goes, "Oh my God, I never knew that." And I thought when Matt and David said, "Do you think you could play a second character?" I said, "Hey, why not?" And so he said it's going to be one of the masked characters. And I just thought, because my body type, I was pretty, like, you could see, I wasn't like a figure where I could kind of just blend in. And so I thought, well, gosh, I'm going to have to change my mannerisms. I can't talk. I mean, I have a distinctive voice. I have a really deep voice. I said, so, I'm just going to have to play this off. And Nadine as well. And, she has a distinctive body also, as
Uh-huh.
Ashley. She's lucky, more lucky than me. I never had a top. And oh, and by the way, today is Booby Day. Today is National Booby Day, so I don't have a bra on, but it's today
Hey,
is it's actually a national day. So women were encouraged not to wear bras today, and this is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. So everybody celebrate that, and I do also support breast cancer. Um, charity and fundraisers. But anyway, so going back to Sarah and Mabel, so I had to change the way I looked. So as Royal Hawaiian, I had flesh tone. I was just bare legged. So for Sarah, I wore black. So in hopes that it would disguise the shape of my legs, it wouldn't be as obvious. And then I'm pretty broad. And so I just, we said, let's kind of try and camouflage a little bit. So I wear different colors. So I wear green on top and a white jacket coming out and a white hood. And then they had to kind of talk like this because we were little hillbillies. So I had to do something to kind of change to make sure. I guess it worked because I pulled it off because nobody knew that it was me.
no.
So I was like, oh, and it was lots of fun. It was a kick because it was like we got to do all this craziness, and you use the breakaway chairs and the bottles and all the fun stuff, all the extra little props. I did that with Royal Hawaiian too, but this was just different. And it was fun. It was a lot of fun, except when they took the masks and they would turn them around because we didn't have like the masks like Lucha, the Lucha Libre
Yeah,
masks
yeah,
where they're fitted and
yeah,
these were like a little potato sack with the little drawstring, and it had two
yeah. With eyes
and
poked
things
out of
for a mouth.
it.
Yeah, but the thing is our opponents would take the mask and turn them around so we couldn't see where the hell we were going. So that was the trick. It was like, okay, well, we gotta turn it around and kind of get back the eye holes so we could see what was going on. But it was lots of fun. Ashley and I had a good time doing it. So yeah, that
That's
was
just
that was too much fun. Yeah.
that's just great comedy. It was so
Yeah.
campy. That was one of the things I
It was
loved about
comedy, and then
Glow.
it was all the fun, huh?
Oh yeah, I mean you never. I mean you had the great matches, were great
We
entertaining,
have a
but
delay.
all the vignettes and all that with all the characters that they played was just as entertaining as the show was. And I
Oh
remember
yeah.
that growing up. That's one
Well,
thing they always build all
Chainsaw
the
and Spike,
characters.
Chainsaw and Spike, and yeah. Well, my favorite was the housewives. So Chainsaw and Spike were also the housewives. And I tell you, after them, they could have had their own sitcom after that. After Glow, they could have done a show on their own. They were so funny. I mean,
Oh,
they
they were
they always laughed
hilarious.
and they said, you know what, we can't wrestle with the dam, but they were as funny as can be. They were just too funny.
And they were
So
real
yeah,
life
that and
sisters,
all the
weren't they?
skits and like sisters, yes. Donna and Sharon Walensky. So
Yeah.
they were two sisters that, yeah, did a good job. And Sharon always tells me, she says, "Oh yeah, when they had us come in, they showed us your video, and then we said, holy moly, I don't want to be with her. And they said, oh, that's the girl that's going to train you. And she said, oh no. I said, yeah. So Chainsaw was scared. She says, before we started training with you, she said, I was scared because they showed us your video. And I said, well, that wasn't very nice. They got them all scared, but it was a lot of fun. We had a really good time. Yeah.
Definitely. So what else are you doing these days?
Yeah.
I mean, what else are you doing now?
Well,
I mean,
I'm um after Glow, I ended up, well, I got hurt early on, so I only did season 1. And when I got hurt, it was a back injury. So when I left, I never even went back. So like I didn't get to keep any of my gear or anything. So like I don't know if you saw the episode where I come in with a little pineapple hut. We didn't have a prop master. I mean, I had to make that myself. I said, you know what? I want to come in with a pineapple hut full of pineapples. And they said, okay, fine, go do what you want to do. Go buy your supplies and we'll reimburse you. And so I went to Home Depot. I bought a trash can on wheels, went and bought a bamboo and, a hula skirt and made a little hut and did all that. But I got nothing. None of my outfits, my cape, my boots, any of my costumes, nothing. I got nothing because I left. Excuse me. I left and I flew to LA to go to the doctor. And then when I got here, they told me, if you plan on having kids, then you better hang it up and quit. And so I did. So that was kind of, the end of that. And I was kind of really depressed because I was having so much fun. And today I suffer from major sciatica. I have 3 bulge discs. I see a neurosurgeon every 3 months and hopes that he doesn't give me bad news like I need to have surgery. Because, I'm almost 60 years old. There's no way I'm having surgery, but I go in the water. That's my therapy is I do water workout anywhere from 2 to 3, 4 times a week. And that's what keeps me, feeling at least bearable. I'm in 24/7 pain, but I don't do painkillers. And so that's pretty much that. And I ended up going from wrestling and doing Glow. And I decided to go into a regular job, and my mom worked for the airlines, and so I went to work for United Airlines. I worked for them for almost 25 years and had a real life, got married and had a kid. I traveled and everything. I didn't get married till I was later, and I was 31 when I got married. I was 33 when I had my first son, and I had some issues at my job. I was exposed to toxic chemicals, and I have talked a little bit about that. And I do have a degree of brain damage from the chemical exposure. And we had quite a few employees that were sick. We had a lawsuit against United Airlines, and we had about 2 dozen women that either had miscarriages, stillbirths, birth defects, death of their children. So I lost 2 babies. And so that was, after Glow and being hurt and then going and doing this. And then, it was a real big thing, which the story still hasn't been told. So that will be another chapter in my autobiography. People
Definitely.
keep saying, why didn't we do something? Well, we did. We had a lawsuit. It was a multi-million-dollar lawsuit. And then United Airlines filed bankruptcy and went to the bankruptcy court in Chicago and got our case thrown out. So everybody, we had 2 employees die. My mom had a stroke. There were like 54 of us that were involved in this potential lawsuit. And then United Airlines just, left us all sick. And, so that's my other part of my medical issues come from that. So half of it is, my injuries, and then half of it comes from this chemical exposure. And so it should have been an Aaron Brockovich too, if you saw that movie. But we had the same attorneys and the same doctors as the Aaron Brockovich case. So it was kind of leaning towards that until United pulled the fast one. Basically, they had better attorneys than we did, I guess. So that's kind of another story in itself. And I'm hoping to kind of touch on that when I get that chapter in the autobiography, and we'll see how that goes. But yeah, so there's some unfortunate stuff that has gone on, and with all the girls, there's lots of backstories. Like unfortunately right now, my girl Sunny is at the doctor today, but she's a cancer survivor, and she had cancer again, and those kinds of things. And we've had just some some things go on with a lot of the girls that, we are just everyday people with, trials and tribulations, just like everybody else. But we try to, continue to forge forward and just move on and hopefully, inspire some of the young girls. I met a couple young girls at one of our events recently, and one girl said, "Yeah, my parents were into wrestling, and I learned about it." Sometimes we go to events and we see 3 generations of Glow fans, which is awesome. And they say, "Oh yeah, because of my parents introducing me and my grandparents, that she was into, I think, taekwondo or karate, and then she said she wanted to go into wrestling." And so my friends Joey and Sylvia Munoz at Santino Brothers here in LA. So I told her, check them out. I said, get into a wrestling school. And, nowadays I said, the women's matches used to be the breaks that you could do your bathroom run and get the popcorn or your beer, and the guys used to get their beers. I said, and now today, women matches, if these indie, promotions don't have a women's match or two, you got something wrong going on there. I said, women's matches are, they're headlining and doing their own pay-per-views and things like that are coming out. We got, David McLean's second show, which is Wow. They just premiered last month, and we've been going to the filming down there all year, and those girls are fabulous. And then you got a new show in Vegas, UWW, and so you never know. I said, nowadays, I just talked to someone else. I'm actually going to do a talk at one of the high schools that now has women's or girls wrestling, a girls
Wow.
wrestling team. So a friend of mine's granddaughter had started wrestling on the boys team, so they had to wrestle on the boys team and wrestle boys. But now, if the school has enough, it has to do with money and being able to fund the athletics. But now there's a lot of the high schools that have girls teams. So, that's great. It's now becoming a competitive sport in high school. And so trying to, give them some pointers and just motivate them to, want to pursue that if that's something they're interested in. So lots of new stuff, every day something new is coming out. And I watch all my favorite is Bianca Belair. Let me see if I have my Bianca doll somewhere. A Bianca doll. So she's my favorite. But you have the Bianca Belairs and, Charlotte Flair and,
Yeah.
all the girls that are out there today, doing all the craziness and just, it's amazing. So it's awesome to see, we're finally getting, some acknowledgement where they call us the trailblazers, and they're saying, without Glow Girls, there would have been no divas, no beautiful people, no, none of the WWE wrestlers today. So it's exciting. And I really enjoy, my buddy Sam in Jersey is my wrestling buddy. So we go to Vegas usually. Well, we've gone for the last couple of years for WWE events there. And then I work with Danny and Ridge from the Wrestling Revolution store here in LA. And we just went up north to WWE for Bakersfield, Oakland, and San Jose for wrestling up there. So it's always cool to go to the live shows, and Sam and I are going to WrestleMania for at SoFi next year, April 1st and 2nd. So we're looking forward to that. So that's exciting. So I didn't used to be a Glow fan, but I am now. It's one of those things where just to stay relevant and actually know when we're doing interviews, because when we're talking, and I enjoy really going to Vegas. When I'm in town in Vegas, I go into join the guys at Thoughts Count Anywhere, and theirs is a full blown, give us your opinion. Who do you think's going to win? Da 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 da. Well, if I didn't know what was going on, how am I supposed to answer all that? So I like to know who's the latest, who's the fan favorite, who's going to win, who's, getting, like my favorite is Drew McIntyre, and they've been, he's been getting the short end of the stick, in my opinion. I'm a little biased, but, I think Roman Reigns has had a long enough run. We need to give some, share the wealth here and Drew comes in and battles by himself, and Roman always has to have somebody come and save the day. So and I know it's part of the whole thing, but I kind of have my favorites too. So, but it's fun. I really like it. It's one of my things. Like everybody says, "Oh, you really like wrestling, huh?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I do." There's some of the girls that have no clue. Like, they do wrestling events and they do things, but they don't really know a lot about what's going on in the industry, and they don't know the difference between Raw and SmackDown or AEW, and the difference in who does what and who's where. So it's a lot of fun, and I get to stay up on things because I do have a good wrestling expert, if you will. Sam's pretty versed and stays on top of it, and he's from Jersey, and so he goes to all the local wrestling shows everywhere. He's been on TV. He's spotted himself on TV before and stuff like that. So I get all the I used to have to get on my phone and look up all the highlights and all my Dodgers right now, all my baseball stats or my football. I'm a Saints fan, and now Sam is just the greatest. He sends everything to me, so all I need to do is get on my page with him and read. He does all the footwork for me, so it's pretty cool. So I really have a good time with it, and of course just trying to keep Glow alive, and and hopefully we'll have some new stuff coming up for the fans.
Definitely, definitely. I am so glad to see that you're still keep yourself relevant in pro wrestling. I'm also really glad to see that you're keeping in touch with what's going on in pro wrestling still, because sometimes people get out of the business and they don't keep their finger on the pulse of what's going on. So that's an awesome thing to see.
Yeah. And that was pre-COVID, because we were around the country a lot. We were on the road like 2, 3, sometimes 4 times a month. And sometimes we were going from one city to another and not even coming home. So back then it was like, okay, well, we're starting to do more, shows like this. And well, if they're starting to ask us real detailed stuff, or what's your opinion, or who do you think, and, stuff like that, I said, I've always been an athlete, so I want to know what's going on. And like people ask, well, what got you into Glow? I said, you know what? I was not into wrestling. I said, I was an actress. I said, so I got an interview and an audition, and I went there, and I was lucky enough to get one of the parts, and it went from there. And it just happened to be something I ended up liking, right? I was good at it, I think. I think that I was a quick learner, and I could, do the maneuvers and, kind of do. I mean, obviously they asked me to be a trainer. So, I knew a little bit about what I had learned from Mondo Guerrero, good teacher, right? So, so I went from there, but, yeah, wrestling dynasty, the Guerrero family. And so actually I just got to meet, or see Vicky and Shaw recently at an event we did a couple weeks ago, and so that's always nice to see. But just getting to see the guys and the girls, and luckily for me, I've been working with I done like meet and greets and shows with Carlito and Greg the Hammer Valentine, and the Godfather, and my buddy Tugboat, and just all the what is it, Ron Orton, right? Ron Orton. And just all May Valentine and Candice Michelle, and just, all the different, people that I've been fortunate enough to be able to see and work with, Jake the Snake. And, it was funny. We were in Vegas, bunch of them, but particularly Jake the Snake, Greg the Hammer Valentine, and just telling me, oh my God, you guys used to be so funny. He said, I would watch you guys. And, back then Vince used to tell them, don't talk to those Glow girls. And we're like, oh yeah, right. And I mean, when we were in Vegas, and I remember one night with I always get it wrong. What is their names? Luke, the Bushwhackers. I remember a night when we were out in Vegas, and you want to talk about a hoot. These guys were the funniest, most hilarious guys to hang out with. And Vince would tell them, don't hang out with, don't be talking to those girls. And then I'm at this convention and Jake the Snake is going, oh man, I remember. He says, my favorite is the ladies with the cold cream and I said, yeah, the housewives. I said, those are my favorites. And he's going, oh my God, you talk about funny, so here I am with WWF superstars and they're telling me about our show, right? So it's just kind of ironic. I'm thinking, oh man, I said, these guys are the big time and they're talking to me about watching our show. So that was pretty cool, So we took a picture and I'm pretty conservative, but so we're there. We're like this. Jake's like, "Come on, let's do a picture," and we're all giving the bird, And so there's been some fun times, And Carlito, his thing is the apple, right? And so I told him, Carlito, here's something that I got from a fan. I got 2 of these. So I always have a pineapple on my table at events, and so Carlito happened to be there, and Danny Ibarra and Reggie Ibarra had apples that he was autographing. So I said, oh, this is my opportunity. I got to get a picture. I said, come on, Carlito. So he had his apple. I had my pineapple. And I said, but dude, just remember, I was doing this 35 years ago. And we just had our 36th anniversary last month. And so I told him, how's that classic picture? The Royal Hawaiian with the pineapple and Carlito with his apple. So I said that was pretty cool. So I've taken advantage of, getting a picture with them. Why not? I'm a wrestling fan, and back then I used to go, a friend of mine was a bodyguard back at the sports arena back in the day. So that was like Hulk Hogan, Andre the Giant, Ravishing Rick Rude, Dino Bravo, all those, that era, right? So I got to go then, and that's when I was doing Glow. So when I would go, there would be a line of fans to get my autograph because it was hot at the time, right? That's right when it came out. So I would go purposely to see them because my buddy would, ask me to go. And then he would basically, and he was like 6'7", just big old guy like this. And he'd stand there and just kind of watch the people and keep them kind of in order waiting to get an autograph from me. So those are the guys that I used to watch, right? And so for me, like when I see all the guys now, Tugboat and all of them, it's like, they're the guys who were the stars back when we were, doing our show. So it's cool to be able to see them now. So it's all really, really, awesome. I mean, I'm a little starstruck, because they're the guys who used to be the superstars and the Hall of Famers and all that. So, and then speaking of Hall of Fame, we had our Tina Ferrari was Ivory in WWF, and so she was inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame. So I think it was 2018, right. But so she's the one that did make it all the way, and that's our we're proud of that and proud to see her. She did a great job, and we'd love to see her more, but she lives off on a little island up in the Pacific Northwest somewhere, and she's like got a pet business or a pet hospital or something to do with the pets up there. Yeah. So, but it's been cool. So, I have no complaints, and everybody asks what I do. And I say, that's what I do. I'm retired from the airline, but I continue to do Glow, and I do have a couple little side, businesses that I do and try to stay, out of trouble as much as possible. Not always possible, but so that's it. There's just kind of keeping my fingers and toes dipped in wrestling when I can, and have a good time with, different events. I have an event. I don't know when this is going to play, but like last week, the girls and I, a couple of the girls, so Sunny and then Roxy and I went to support one of our big supporters. He's like our number one supporter, Robert Wynn. He's a Elvis, not impersonator, but he performs, and it was an Elvis, the 22nd annual Elvis Festival. Do charity work for Roxy's daughter works for a place called Pups Without Borders, and so we did another event I think about a month ago, and we raised money for the dogs, to get the dogs adopted through a rescue and stuff like that. And so we did that again this past Sunday, and then this Saturday I'm doing a show with 3PWA with Tony and Jennifer Ray's in Anaheim. So I still do, and I'm actually managing a guy wrestler, AJ Mana, who goes by the Samoan Shooter. He's related to Rikishi and the Usos and all those
Wow.
guys. So I'm managing him on Saturday, and I was with him last month, and then I'll be doing it again this week on Saturday. And so I still try and help out, the smaller indie type promos that need some, publicity and get the Glow name out there and advertise for them. And sometimes I just go and do a meet and greet. I'll go out and sign autographs, sell merchandise. And I've gotten the girls to come out a couple times. I've gotten a few of the girls, and, just to try and help out with some of the promotions that are in the area. So it's cool. Lots of fun. And the fans love it, of course. They're always excited to see the girls come out and stuff like that. So, yeah, just trying to stay busy and help out any way I can. So
I've been truly inspired by listening to your story. It's been awesome. I really didn't know all the fine details of your life, and as a fan, I mean, I'm 52 years old, but I grew up literally watching Glow, and I remember all the different storylines as you were talking different things. Things were going through my mind, and I think it's totally crazy that you didn't see that yourself on the same level as the other wrestlers. You ladies were the first original all ladies wrestling show. And I'm serious when I say this.
Yeah.
I'm sure Vince McMahon didn't want you next to his wrestlers because you guys were getting better ratings than he was at the time. So he didn't want to admit it.
That's exactly why.
Because you guys did television
that's
shows,
exactly
you did
why,
all
because
kinds of
we
things.
were.
Yes.
Well,
Yeah.
and that's what it was. He was really, not jealous of the fact that our ratings were better than theirs. And
Yes,
we
he
were
was
on
jealous.
every
That's the
week.
words, the best way to put it. He was envious, jealous, and he wished he had that number one spot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was.
Definitely.
So that's the part kind of cool, right? But
That's
it
awesome.
is just now, though, that we're actually feeling that people are calling us the Trailblazers, right? So even just like, what's the show? I just watched it the other day. The one where it was territories, where it was the territories of, I think last week's was with Jerry Lawler in Tennessee. And then fans keep asking us, how come they don't put you guys on one of those shows where they bring you back to talk about like all this stuff that we're talking about, right? Because on a bigger platform, fans would probably like to see it.
Oh,
So
yeah.
it's not so far-fetched, and it's not saying that it will never happen. But you never know, it could come back and maybe someone asks us to do a show and do, something like that. But we were, on so many channels in the US and then of course internationally, that for us, when we were doing season 1, David and Matt Simber did not even sell the show to Vegas, to Nevada. So our show was not even showing in Vegas at the time that we were doing it. And they did it on purpose because they didn't want us to know how well the show was doing. They didn't want us to get big heads. They didn't want us to ask for more money. They did it on purpose. We did not know. So the whole time we were doing the show, we didn't know that there were bags and bags of fan mail. They kept all of that from us, because they didn't want us to know exactly how popular it was, what the ratings were. And so now today, I actually have, I have a book that has, like, one of the first shows we did with a lot of the girls. I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know what we were going to do at these shows. So I had my old portfolio that you take on auditions and interviews that have all your headshots in. Well, I had that book, and I had all my Glow memorabilia. So I had all the stuff from back in the 80s. And so this was like before 2012, because 2012 was the documentary. So a few years before, when we started coming out and doing events and stuff like that, I had this book, the first show that I did with the girls, and I left it in the car. And so we're kind of sitting around, and fans are coming, and we're talking story. And then they said, oh, well, too bad we didn't have any of that stuff from back in the day. And I said, oh, I have some of that stuff. They're like, what do you mean? I said, I have a whole book. They're like, well, where is it? I said, it's in my car. They're like, well, go get it. And I said, okay. So I brought it out, and it was all the old articles, like when we first were coming out with the pilot, all the stuff that we gave out as flyers to advertise that this pilot's coming out, the stuff that went to the Nappy convention to sell the show, any of the newspaper articles that were out. Everybody's like, why have you had this in the car? I said, I didn't know anybody wanted to see this stuff. So then I took it out of that book. I mean, this book was all crusty. Oh, yeah. Well, now that's what they say. Oh, got to see April's vintage book, right? I said, this stuff is 36 years old from back in the day. And so I took it all out and I put it in a nice, like a scrapbook, like a hot pink glow, because it's pink glow, right? This is glow. Glitter. So it's a glitter photo album, and I have all the pictures, the ads, or we were in those, what do they call them? The National Enquirer, or the, those throwaway Hollywood papers, right?
Yes.
They had all our pictures, they had like 2 and 3 page layouts of all the different girls. And so I have those in there. I have articles, I have just pictures. And so I put all of that in a book. And so now that's what can we see that book that everybody talks about? I'm like, yep, here it is. And then I had a collector come up, and there's one thing in there that is, instead of just handing out a flyer that says, oh, Glow, it's a new series, Gorgeous Ladies of Wrestling, it's going to come out, blah, blah, blah. Would you like to buy it? For the syndicated companies that bought it. Instead, they came out with, it looks like a folder, like a folder that you have your work for school. Just like a peachy folder. Back in our days, they were called peachy folders. And so instead of just handing them a flyer, it was this folder. When you opened it up like this, a ring popped out. And so the ring, it was like a 3D thing. So it kind of was like,
so it's like a pop-out book thing?
And there was a ring. And in the ring, there were 2 girls. Pop out. And so all the girls are on the side. So on the ring, there's like, I don't know if it's 2 girls or if it's a tag team going on in the ring. So I had one guy, because it's in a sleeve in a page. So I always take it out, because I say, oh, you got to see this. This is a really cool piece. And I'll take it out and I'll open it, and they go, wow, that's cool. And so I had a guy offer me $500 for that. And I said, no, I can't part with it. I'm sorry. I said, it's really, so I thought about reproducing it, but it's really expensive. Yeah. But I still think I might do some, because we've had a few fans say, oh, too bad you didn't have any more of those. I would buy one. So what I started doing is, some of those pieces that are in that album, I have copied some of the articles that have, pictures of girls, and it's an article, and I'll sell those, and we can autograph on them. But it's an actual article that you probably can't, unless you go back in the archives and try and find, that you can maybe find it. And then there was something else. Oh, we have our first VHS video when that came out. That's in there. And just all kind of, we were on the back of, here in Hollywood, it's one of those publications. It's called The Hollywood Reporter. And it's like one of the top like industry things that show what shows are being cast, what movies are coming out, and all of that. And I want to say, I think it was 1987, and we were on the back cover. So the front, it says Hollywood Reporter, and it's got all the whatever their cover was, and then Glow was on the back side of that. So I have that cover, and we're on the back, and so different things like that. So it's stuff that you wouldn't be able to get, but have them. So it's just a matter of,
that'd be out of press. You won't,
to share with you. Yeah,
that's awesome. That is awesome.
Very cool stuff.
Yeah. So don't be surprised if WWE doesn't come at you one day and want that for their museum, because that's something that's a part of American wrestling history.
The one thing that we've been trying to do is get DVDs done, but we just can't get them to release the films to us. I've been working with Matt Simber and his son Tony Simber to try and do, because the fans would love to see some of the old stuff. There's no reason to not have it out there, but
right.
And the name Glow is owned by only one Glow, and that with the Netflix show, she was the only one that made any money on it. So no other Glow girl got a penny from that show. So we say, had it been me, I would have taken it and I would have ran with it. I would have said, okay, I'm asking for 25, 30 cameo spots. I'm going to put some of our girls in there. They didn't consult us. I mean, none of us, to say, okay, let's get some authenticity here in the show, but nothing. She was the only one that was involved in that project, and she's the only one that made money. And, it's unfortunate, but it is what it is. It's a Hollywood story in itself. And it finally started to come out in some of our interviews now, which it was, hush hush for a long time because of the fact that she had, the affair with Rickless, and Pia Zadora didn't, want her to know, and all of that. So everybody was walking on eggshells and not wanting to talk about it. But you know what? Facts are facts. And, because people ask us all the time, oh, did you guys get money and royalties and this and that? And not a cent, so we're hoping to do some stuff and hopefully, get to help out some of the girls that, really could use some help, so me included, but
definitely.
Yeah, so we'll see. I mean, we definitely are interested and open for any, any projects or things that people are wanting to see out there, because we know that there's the interest. We have a real big loyal fan, so hopefully, we get some recognition and it continues. But like you said, who knows? Some of the stuff could end up in a museum. A couple of the museums have reached out. So I did do a thing where I gathered a bunch of, some of the props of some of the girls, and I asked them, don't give me anything real, personal of yours, but if you can give me a shirt or autograph pictures and stuff like that. I've done that for a couple of the museums to get them some of the glow stuff to put on display and things like that. So we'll see. You never know. You need to. I'm kind of trying to work on something else with a glow kind of exhibit type thing, but those kind of things are, take some organizing and planning and stuff. But the next thing I kind of had mentioned that we're trying to do a glow calendar, and that got put doing some things that the fans would be interested in. Oh, well, so I did this. I had a slam buddy made.
Oh, that's
So
awesome! I love the slam buddies.
And
that is so
so
80s.
she's autographed on the back.
Oh,
so 80s,
that's the
right?
best.
So I did those, and the order that I put in, I sold out in a day. So
I
it was
bet.
pretty awesome. And so so I'm probably going to do some more, but that was just to see. I didn't know, if people would be interested, or, would they or wouldn't they? And they were gone.
If you have more other made, I would definitely want one. If you get more made, I would definitely buy one from you.
Yeah. When I
love
put
that
in another
stuff.
order, I will definitely get one and put one aside for you. But so there's all kind of, things we could be doing, and we got some things in the works. So we'll keep in touch and keep you up posted on the new developments and such.
That
and
is
then
awesome.
hopefully you'll get some more glow girls, because
I love it. I mean, I've been walking down memory lane and having great memories with you ladies, and I appreciate you taking time out of your busy days to be able to bring me these memories and share it with hopefully a lot of viewers out there in video land throughout the internet here on the Joey Nuggs Show.
Yes,
because
for sure.
I can truly say, I mean, I make contact with people, but God is the one that's making people say yes and coming on the show. So I believe in that. I believe that there's a higher power, and I've been inspired by your story. I appreciate you taking your time out of the day. Is there anything else you want the fans to know?
Well, they can, if they're interested, they can get in touch with me. I'm on Instagram. I'm Royal Hawaiian 25 on Facebook.
I've been running all your information across the bottom.
Page that okay. I'm actually on Facebook. There is a Royal Hawaiian, but I'm locked out. I'm still attempting to get into it. But right now, the one I use is April Hom. It's HOM. A lot of people see the HOM, and I just got something done. I can't remember, just a couple days ago, and it said Horn. Oh, I know. It was the post office. Somebody got their slam buddy, and they print my name and I write it, but then they put it on a printed piece that goes on the envelope, and it says April Horn, HORN, because they think it looks like an R and an N, and it's an M.
Yeah, I definitely spelled the stuff right.
So you did. You spelled it right. So on Facebook, it's Hom, and then on Instagram, it's Royal Hawaiian or glow_Royal Hawaiian, and then my email is aprilhom25@gmail.com. So yes,
Awesome.
they can get in touch with me at any time if they're interested in trying to get some Glow Girls out to an event or a private party, or we do all kinds of, community stuff and what have you, but just get in touch with us and let me know if there's anybody else you're interested in seeing. I'll try and, put a word in and get some girls to come out on your show. Because once a couple of us do it, then, it kind of trickles and the fans love to see them. So that's always
well, I am honored and elated that I've been able to have three beautiful ladies from the Gorgeous Ladies of Wrestling on the show. So far.
Thank you.
It just makes
so
my
much
day.
Joy. It's been my pleasure. I love to help out where I can and like to give the fans something to be able to watch and see and bring back their memories and such. So it's always a good thing to do. So thank you so much.
I appreciate you. Until we see you again next time, it's been another Joey Nuggs show, and I thank you once again, Royal Hawaiian from the Gorgeous Ladies of Wrestling, for making with this another great episode for the fans to watch here on the interwebs. Well, thank you. Good night. Goodbye now. Aloha.
Thank you. Aloha, Joey. Thank
Is it
you.
all right this
Bye-bye.
way?
Aloha.
Let me get it right. Aloha.